What's up, Ramblers? Your favorite CEO is back. And before we begin today's podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. And follow Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms to stay up to date on the latest content, updates, and more. And remember, if you need a virtual assistant, visit us at offsource.tech. Now, before we begin, a word from our sponsor.
Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. I'm your host, Angelo Roberts. I have today with us Carla Cherry. Please introduce yourself. How are you doing today, Carla?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Angelo. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have.
Yeah.
Okay, great to have you. Carla is a power offer consultant. And so that we're going to learn what that is because I had to learn what a power offer consultant was. Among some other things, I think Carla's an amazing guest because we've had other, coaches on this particular podcast before. But as I've said in the DM, I think she is a real coach. During the pandemic, a lot of us that were networking have come across all of these different coaches and lifestyle coaches and gurus and experts. And I think Carla actually provides an actual value. So we're going to really get into that. So Carla, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into doing this, and what even is a power offer consultant.
Okay, perfect. So my background is in television and digital. So for about 14 years, I was working in LA. I was a producer for Larry King. I did all kinds of things, household name companies, writing and producing. And around
MTV being one of them, just to let you know.
MTV, yeah, Yahoo Studios. I actually edited and helped produce the Think Like a Man 2 promos for Comedy Central. So
Wow.
I've worked for Motor Trend. I've worked for a whole slew of companies. Yeah, I got to sit there with them while they shot it. And so that was pretty cool. I've done a ton of stuff and enjoyed it very, very much. I really, really enjoy the creation part of it. I enjoy the writing and the creating and being inside the creating part of it. And what I find is in business, there is creativity, and people don't tap into that. They don't think about that part. They think a lot of times in terms of just, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the playbook, just follow the playbook. And that's it. And so I became really fascinated with the offer creation because a lot of coaches and consultants and I was helping people on the side while I was doing my industry jobs, and then I just kind of I owned my first company in my 20s, which I can share all about. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and so around 2017 I was wanting to go back to entrepreneurship, and I was like, what are these people doing online? Like, what is Alex Hormozy over here doing? What is all these interesting. Grant Cardone started getting in my ear. I started riding around listening to this, I'm like, why am I listening to this crazy person, this Louisiana accent? Like, but why is he making sense? He was totally making sense in my ears. And I was driving to work listening to Grant Cardone, and I was like, okay, what is happening? So, so I basically, I started helping friends, and what I found was everybody says, I need more clients, I need more sales. And I know the power of words, right? So I know the power of words in the sense of when you're introducing yourself, when you're sharing your offer. So that's the one piece of it. I knew it had something to do with messaging, but then when I really dug deep, I found, wow, people say niche down, but niching down for niching down's sake doesn't make sense. It's really about solving the problem. So if someone has a problem that they are losing sleep on, and you nail that and you find out what that is, and then you come in with a core solution, and then you figure out all the ancillary problems around that problem, and you answer all of those, that's what a power offer is. So I started helping people figure out what their power offer is, and it really kicked up during the pandemic. I mean, my business went off the roof, like, because everybody was like, oh my God, what I'm doing now is no longer going to work, especially people that were meeting people in person. And so I started getting calls like crazy, like, how do I'm either going to have to shut down my business, or I'm going to have to, everybody call it the great pivot. And so that's where it really kicked in. And so, I mean, I could give you example after example. One of my favorite examples is a woman named Bonnie who had a video production company, and she's like, I no longer, nobody's gonna doing production in person, right? And
Mhm.
so we looked at it. Okay, what do people really need though? So we found out that locally people needed to get on the front page of Google. And so you could do, I told her you can do video online. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. So we figured out how to get her creating reviews for people and getting them to the front page of Google with a very specific software. And so I said, look, you call somebody up or you get a meeting with somebody on Zoom and you say, hey, you're a local business and you're scared too. I can get you on the front page of Google like this with these video reviews and the software.
Mhm.
And she literally had to start turning business away.
Wow.
So that's when I hit like, okay, we're onto something here. Like, what do people need? What are people
Mhm.
losing sleep over? How can you solve the problem? How can you solve it better than anyone else that puts you into a category one? And how can you solve all the ancillary problems around that problem so that when you pitch it, they would feel like ridiculous not to at least talk to you?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people really need to reinvent how they I guess propose what it is that they're
Mhm.
saying, especially as times change. I kind of want to get into something a little bit different and deeper though. You mentioned
Yeah,
that you've
sure.
had a business and were an entrepreneur since the beginning. I would consider myself a purebred entrepreneur. So I want to get into those kinds of conversations. You said you started having like side hustles and entrepreneur ventures in your 20s. What did
Mhm.
those look like? And did they always revolve around some form of marketing? Have you ever tried to venture into like maybe product or something else? Like what did your experiences early on look like?
Absolutely. So I became a mom at 25. So I was not expecting that and I did. I got married, fell in love, got married, had a baby. Nobody thought that was gonna happen. I didn't think it was gonna happen, but here we are. And so I was like, oh wow, I had a and television degree
Mhm.
from NYU, and I moved to Europe. It's a long story, but that's where I fell in love and got married, had a baby, and then came back to the States. And I was like, all right, I now got to get a job, like, hello, 25 years old, I got to get a job. Like this whole whimsical, like European thing is over now. And now it's reality. And
Mhm.
so I moved back to we were both, I knew this, my ex-husband, I knew him since eighth grade. So we moved back to our hometown. We're like, oh, we need family. First we moved to the mountains because we thought that would be fun. And then we realized, oh yeah, nobody wants to babysit our kid like our family does. And we have this huge family. So might as well move home. So we
Mhm.
moved back home, and then it was like reality just like really set in. And so I was like, okay, what can I do with this degree? And so I worked for the news station. Well, it paid pennies.
Mm.
And I couldn't survive just on that job alone. Like it was probably the sexiest thing you could say in a small hometown. I mean, the industry here was here, but I have a baby, so I didn't want to go working 12-hour days and like
Right. You
put my
couldn't
child in.
utilize those kind of perks being in that kind of industry that it would take.
Yeah, you're working 12 to 15-hour days in the film industry. So that's not, I wanted to be home with my kids. So
Mhm.
so what I did was work 9 to 5, but I found out I ended up having to work a 9 to 5 job in a call center and then go home, give my child a bath and feed her. My grandmother's picking her up from daycare at this point, and then I'm going to my news job. And I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like I'm going to start a company and it's going to make more money than this. I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing it. So that's what I did. And I had a friend, luckily, who had a company in New York City, and she was one of my best friends. And she's a multi-million dollar company now, multiple franchise, doing incredible. But she was always an entrepreneur, and she said, "I'm going to fly down there, and I'm going to help you set up a company." And I was like, "Let's go."
Mm.
So I believe that taught me two things, like that, you get a lot further by learning from somebody who's already done it, right?
Right.
And mentorship, that seed was planted. Because she was like, boom, get your office out of your bedroom. for number one, here's your office over here. This is how you send an email. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And then on the other hand, I had a friend from NYU or from New York who was like, and this is like what, 2001 or two, somewhere around there. And he was like, you need a Mac computer and you need to learn how to edit. And I was like, okay, fine. So I'm literally like, I'm like reading a manual on how to edit. Like they had one editing class at NYU as a senior, and I took it, but that was it. So I'm like literally like reading manuals, and barely YouTube was coming out teaching you. And so I was like, okay, this is too slow.
Hmm.
So I went down to the Geek Squad at Best Buy, and
Okay.
I was like, who here knows how to edit? And
I'm
this
sure they all
guy,
raised their hands.
one guy was like, I know how to edit. And I was like, okay, what are we doing? And he goes, and I have another friend that knows computers. And and this was like when Steve Jobs was like coming out, and we would like, it's like a bunch of geeks like sit there and watch Steve Jobs like hit the stage, and like it was a big
Mhm.
deal. And this guy had Coke bottle glasses that were that thick, swear to God. And he was running the phone company at night. And so we started a geek club. And I was like, I will help you guys figure out how to do the design side if you guys can help me figure out where the buttons are. Like how do we do the technical side? Because editing is like equal parts art, equal parts tech.
Right.
And so I didn't have the tech part yet down. So they could figure that out.
Just to be sure, you guys are starting like a video editing, like a editing kind of company, like a
I was.
okay.
I decided to start a wedding company and to do wedding videos.
Ah,
Yeah, sorry, missed that part. So I forgot to say that part. So, but I didn't know how to quite do it. Like I know I could shoot, and I know I could figure out the editing, but it was a little harder than I thought. Like so back then it was Final Cut Pro,
mhm.
and so got that, and got it all set up. And so I my first project I this is crazy. Somebody in town said we're having a fashion show, and I was like, I'll do it. Like I'll shoot it and I'll edit it. And that was crazy. Like there was 5 cameras, I think. So on my first editing job, I had 5 tracks. That was nuts.
Oh
Don't recommend.
wow.
Don't recommend it. But I threw myself into the fire because I was like, I will have to figure this out. And it was so painful because one night I hit one button and I hadn't discovered Command Z, and I lost the entire project and had to start over. But those are the days where those are the lessons that you never forget, like that's how you learn.
Right. Those are the important ones. Canon moments,
Yeah.
as people would call
Yeah, totally. So yeah, 100%. So I got the fashion show done, and the woman who told I could do it, she didn't really believe me. She's like, all right, whatever. And then she saw it and she was like, wow, because I really made it happen. Like that was my schooling, like that piece.
them.
And so went on from there to create this video company, this wedding video company. And it was awesome. Like it was me, one man band at first, and then suddenly my friend was like, okay, now you've got it going, now
Mhm.
you start hiring. And I was like, oh, I can't hire anybody, like this is my art, like nobody can do it like me. She's like, bull, you want somebody to do it better than you, and you want to be running the company. And so she was right. It was very painful that first hire, but she was right in the end. And so I hired somebody, and it was hysterical because this guy, she said, this is what you do, and this stays true. This is still true. She said, you hire on attitude and you hire on troubleshooting. Like, are they a really nice person, like somebody that you could see yourself working with and take direction, and they have a good attitude, and can they go figure out the answer to the problem if they need to, like by themselves, like.
I think
And
those are
so
some of the most important things right there because, like, I've done some hiring and under the assumption that everyone knows how to do the job because why apply if you don't know how to do the technical aspect of the job? But even if you don't, just the attitude or the goals of being able to say, I'm going to figure it out on the fly
yes,
and
Yeah,
to go under the radar and be able to do that. Listen, as long as I can work with you and you have that kind of attitude, power to that.
that's it. That's it. And so, and that still stands true today. Like I still hire on those principles. Like that has not changed, you know? So she taught me how to hire. And so basically she told me when you hire three people and one will stay because not all three are going to work out. You hire them on a trial basis. You tell them it's a trial basis. You give them tests before you even hire them, you know, to make sure that they, like, you ask specific questions. She taught me everything. She goes, you're going to go to Starbucks and sit there all day and just interview people one after another, after another, after another. You know, don't do it in multiple days. Just do it in one day. And you have very specific questions that you ask them. And, you know, you want to find out if they're excited to work for you. You know, you want to find out that you want somebody that wants to do this job because they really want to be an editor. They're not just doing it because they're trying to pay the bills until they get to the other job that they really want. You want somebody that's going to be there long term. You want somebody that's like really great attitude, somebody who, like I said, can troubleshoot and is excited to be there. And she said, and this is crazy. I didn't believe her, but she said, you don't want to hire somebody who comes in and says they know everything. She said, you want somebody who is teachable and who has the better attitude. That's more important. And she was so right, because when this guy came in, I was like, no, he's the one. He's definitely the one. Like, he's like, oh, he knows all the things. And sure enough, like, he wasn't. It was this other one that was just like eager to learn and super excited and great attitude. But what was funny was I did have to teach him. Like, I did have to go, this is how you do the thing. And then, you do more check-ins in the beginning until they have it, and then they're off to the races and they've got it. And there's a really funny story. Like, when we first did the first wedding he did, his name is Jonathan. He, cut some stuff together, and there was like, it was a wedding that was shot on a boat. And I think I'd like grabbed some bird shots, you're trying to get like scenic stuff. But the way he cut it together, it looked like Alfred Hitchcock's Birds. Like, it was not wedding. Like, it was like a horror movie. And I was like, okay, we have to talk aesthetics. I just think of that because now what's crazy is Jonathan kicked so much ass that he literally is now, like, he went to LA before me. And it was the saddest day when he left. I was so sad. But he went and got a job in LA, and now he's running like top editing house in LA. Like, he has yeah, he's killing it. Like, and he's been killing it. Like, so, and we're still friends. And so that was really, really cool, because I gave him his first job out of college, and he got that opportunity and ran with it, did a really, really good job, and went out to LA and killed it.
Now it's big up there. So you mentioned that. Now, how do we go from you owning your own wedding editing company to going back to corporate America, then back to now owning a coaching business? Like, what caused you to go one to LA, and then two, what caused you to switch over to corporate?
Okay, so when my daughter turned 8, I was like, I have to go. We've done small town thing. Like I wanted her to be raised around my family and to have a really good foundation. Children don't know where they are in the world, and they just know I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I got tons of family that loves me. So I wanted her to have that really strong foundation. And I honestly needed help too. I was like young, I don't know what I'm doing. So, I really was happy that we did that. And then when she turned 8, I was like, okay, I need to go utilize my film degree. I got a film degree, and I work, that's what I wanted to be doing. And so, and also, I had a lot of friends that lived in LA. I never saw myself as a small town person. Like, I always wanted to live in a big city. It was either gonna be New York or LA. I went to school in New York. So I was like, I've already done New York, let's go to LA. So, and the business is there. So that's what we did. So I went, and at this point I'm a single parent, and moved out there with her. And yeah, I mean, I just started. At first, what was really, really cool was I went from East Coast to West Coast while still running my company from the West Coast for over a year, I think 2 years.
Wow.
I had so many referrals like you get to a point where you get so many referrals banked up, you get a business that I was able to literally go to LA and run the company for 2 years and sustain myself there. And I looked into going to the wedding company there, but it was a completely different market. It was like either super high or low. And no, I like the upper middle space of that market.
Mhm.
I don't know. I really like the super high end because then you're just like, it's like too
Right,
much,
you start dealing with clientele that you don't really want to start to deal with, and yeah, okay, I understand.
multi-camera, like it's too much, like especially out
Mhm.
there. So I didn't want to go, I didn't want to invest in all that. And I was honestly over weddings at that point. So it was just a means to an end. So I basically started, but here's the thing, here's the interesting thing is the skill of editing was what opened up the doors for me in all the jobs. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So talk about how you landed your first role while you were out there in LA and how editing got you into there.
Yeah, well, so what was crazy about it was after I got done editing in the wedding company, I wasn't editing for a while. I didn't have to. And I was like, never gonna do it again. And I mean, honestly, it's like it's such an intense hours and hours and hours. So I thought I'd never have to do it again. And when I got out there and I was like, okay, I'm in this pickle. Like, I don't want to do weddings anymore. But I don't have, I can't knock on the door and say I want to be a producer. Just, hi guys. I'm here to produce your show. So what I found out was, go with what you learn, go with what you have, utilize the skills that you have, which also taught me something later with the coaching business as well. That was seed was planted. It's like, okay, what skills are you really good at? Like, where can you start? And this can open the door. So that's what happened. Like I would go on these interviews and they're like, wait, you can edit too? And I was like, yeah. And then it's also, I didn't mention I did comedy for a while. So
You did comedy?
I did comedy
Like
for
stand
over
up?
stand up for over a decade. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I wish you would have said that at some point before, because I actually am trying to build up my nerve to go do my first open mic night. Because I don't know,
Just go.
I'm a
Just
very big
go.
comedy fan. Like I've been watching stand up. It's like one of the big things that me and my dad are able to connect on because like we
Oh,
both like stand up comedy. And
that's awesome.
so like I know like I'm a business owner at heart. Like I know I'm an entrepreneur at heart. This is what I love to do. But
Yeah.
comedy is something that is like, oh, I'd love to, even if I just like went to clubs and had a club that I was able to do every weekend, that would be like soup. Oh my gosh. That see now this is how we get into having other episodes with you because now I need to have you come on and talk about your comedy career. Like this is such a multifaceted entrepreneur. Guys, I blew you out the water being able to land this one. I'm so thankful. So editing and comedy was something that was like being a multifaceted entrepreneur is what allowed you to be easily transitioned into corporate America, which is something that I talk about kind of seeing like a lot on this
Yeah.
podcast because people always say, oh, how do you take that risk? What are you going to lose in terms of your experience on jobs? Oh, they look for your job history. Well, I can clearly show what kind of skills I gained during this time of not having, that normal 9 to 5 kind of job.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so with being a power offer consultant and then to kind of bring it full circle, how does one go from entrepreneurship to LA where you're now working with people like Larry King, working on at Yahoo, working at these big name companies? How do you go back to take now this risk again into being a power offer consultant?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think I don't know. I don't have problem taking the risk. Like I just want to be in a job where I'm excited and I'm having fun and I'm making money doing something that I'm excited doing. That's it. So people always say like, "Oh my God, you took such risk. You went to LA with a 8-year-old by yourself." But I don't really see it as that. I just feel like this is the next venture. This is the next part. Like this is the next part of the story. As an entrepreneur, you can do all kinds of things. You don't have to be locked into one thing or another. There's opportunity everywhere. So when I got to LA, it became clear that that was going to be the thing that was going to open the door. So then I said, okay, I didn't really want to, let's be clear. I didn't really want to edit at that point. Like I was
Mhm.
over it, but it was a skill that I had. So I took the entry level job. I'm trying to remember what my first editing job was. I know Motor Trend was one of my first editing job. Yeah, Motor Trend, I would say, was one of the first ones. No, actually, I worked for, well, no, sorry, the California Endowment. Oh, this is fun. So I had an editor, one of my editors in North Carolina. She went out there and got a job at the California Endowment. So she was working for me, and then I was working for her. She hired me, so she became my boss. So that was really like
Another full circle kind of life
another
thing.
full circle. Like you reach out to your friends and you go, I'm up for hire. Like, and so that was my first job, was working for my former employees. So and I say employees, was contract, it was like a full-time, but it was super cool. We're still friends and she's killing it. My God, became an inspiration for me because she started a podcast and she started in the coaching world. And I was watching her like, okay, if she could do that, then I could do it too. Like, that looks interesting. She's
Mhm.
going all these summits and talking. She's a podcast, and she's a really interesting story, very interesting story. So yeah, well, I'll talk about her for a second. She had two parents that died of cancer. And so she was like, I'm determined to figure out how to get this holistic thing out there, because she lost both parents, one in high school, one in college. And so she started I think what was the holistic voice, or Food Heals. She started Food Heals, which was revolutionary at the time. Nobody was talking about that. The documentaries had not been out yet.
Mhm.
Nobody was talking about the food industry and like all the poisons and stuff they were putting in it. And she started talking about it. And she became a little rock star in my mind. I was like, wow, and she started podcasting and she started getting on all these opportunities and she started coaching. She left the California Endowment and started getting her own entrepreneurship going with that. So I was
Right.
like, huh. And she was honestly the one I was like, huh, that looks interesting. So I was watching her. And then I got hired. After that, I got hired for Motor Trend, which was really interesting. When I was one of the only female editors in there, and that was interesting too because I got hired. A friend of mine was a VP, so luckily that worked out. And so he hired me, and I work for tons of companies, Participant Media, all kinds of companies as editors. But I got hired as and I said to him, all I know is Final Cut Pro. It was right when Final Cut Pro was switching over to Premiere.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know Premiere. I know Final Cut. I know that we're, switching over, but that's what I know. And they said, don't worry about it. You'll be hired as Final Cut Pro. First week on the job, they're like, yeah, you're going to need to do this in Premiere. We can't do Final Cut. Sorry. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. And then that's where I learned, as an editor, you learn you have to do something on the fly. You have to just figure
All
it
the
out.
time.
You got to
All the
figure it
time.
out. So, I mean, if I wanted to keep that job, I had to figure it out. So I learned, find your allies, like find the person that's willing to show you where the buttons are
Mhm.
again. So this one editor guy was like, saved my life. And then just at night, you're going to the job during the day, and at night you're just YouTubing like crazy and trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, and that's how you get ahead. Like, you don't complain, you don't bitch about it, you just go figure it out. And so that's what happened there. And then I'm trying to remember, and then I got hired, my first directing job, which I thought I've died and gone to heaven, because again, I had got hired as an editor.
Mhm.
And my boss supervisor started teaching me all these things. I'm like, why is she teaching me these things? And like a couple of weeks in, she's like, so you're being groomed to take my job. And I was like, what?
Ooh.
Like, she's like, yeah, I'm leaving and you're going to be directing. And I was like, wow,
Big
this is
steps.
freaking awesome. And it was a food app. The food app failed, but they were trying to do like Blue Apron, that kind of deal.
Okay.
They're right in there, revolutionary. And so I'm like, okay, I'm directing food, but I'm directing.
Right.
So it was interesting. So I went from there to I think after that was Larry King. So I got hired to work for Larry King's company.
Mhm.
So Larry King had, so basically after he left CNN, he had his own show, Larry King Now, and he was on a renovated church in Glendale, which is really interesting because he was totally atheist and he works at a church. And so he had this production company, and the man in his 80s was just like on fire. Like he had so
Right.
many shows, he had so many things he was doing. It was crazy. And I got hired to come in on this one show called Collector's Cafe. And it was a businessman that was putting it on. And there's very long story, but we got hired to do that. And then they're like, okay, we're pausing. So can you guys write for the news? And I was like, okay, now I'm a writer. So sure, So then I got to start really honing my writing craft, which was awesome.
Mhm.
I think I was writing before Yahoo Studios before that. Actually, yeah, I was. I mean, it's just so many jobs. Like you're just like job to job crazy. And then Yahoo Studios, I got to do comedy and writing for the first time, which was awesome. But that job was at like it was a night job, which was crazy. So you just do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
um, yeah, yeah. But Larry King, there's an interesting story there, but I'll let you pause if you want to ask me questions.
No, that's just a lot that you guys have going on. And so in regards to being like, say, a power offer consultant, how would you say that these particular roles kind of help shape the value that you bring as a power offer consultant?
Well, that's perfect because so with I'll tell you with Larry King, they put me. I got hired to first write for the a news show there, and then I got hired, and then we went on this new collectible show,
Mhm.
and so with that one, I had two bosses above me, and then I had a boss above them. And long story short, the very not Larry King side, but the other side, this guy was like not a he was very difficult. Let's just say that very difficult person to work for. And the two guys above me quit because of it.
Mm.
And that was interesting. That was really interesting. And so they were hiring that position, the executive producer position. And these people started coming in and interviewing. And I decided I wanted to go put my hat in the ring for the job, which that was a crazy idea, like to even do that. And so the boss, like I had all these signs, right? Like the boss was sitting in the office and everybody was gone. Like nobody else but me and him there. And I was like, okay, Carla, like this is a sign. Like go put your hat in the ring. It was the scariest thing I'd ever done. And I went up there and I said, I want to put my hat in the ring for this job. And he was just like, you do? And I said, yep. And he was like, okay. And after that happened, they didn't hire, they didn't hire. I literally started acting like I had the job.
Wow. And they just
Yeah.
kind of let you roll with it.
I just said, I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm just going to show them that I can do this. And it was the craziest thing. Like, I don't know what came over me, but I was like, I'm just going to start doing this job. And so I literally went down to his studio and he had guests for his show. And we're like big people walking in, like, huge, every week. And so I went down to the green room and I just went in there and I just started talking to like the talent, the stars, and asking them, like, if, would you be interested in being on our show? This is what our show's about. Would you be interested? And I started getting people to say yes
Mhm.
because the publicists were like ironclad. You could not, like, it's their job to say no. Like that's like they're good hire. They get hired to say no,
Right.
for their talent, unless it's like something they really, really want to do. And so it was interesting. Like I just started acting as if I started booking people. And then all of a sudden, the producers on the Larry King side, they're like, "Okay, whoa, 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 what's happening?"
Right.
And like then they called a meeting with me, like the team, and I was like, "Yeah, like this is what we're doing."
I've just been rocking with it.
Yeah, and they were like, "All right, well, okay, if this is what's happening and you're doing this, then we got to put some rules in place." I was like, "Sure, what are the rules?"
Right, yeah, whatever the rules, because now you're agreeing and putting everything and solidifying my role here.
Exactly, exactly. So I was like, "Tell me what you want." And so then they were like, "All right, well, you can't do this, can't do that, but you got to do this, you got to do that." Okay, sure, I'll do it.
That
So what
works.
happened was while I was working for Larry King, I had to, all of a sudden I found myself in the executive producer role. Like I was now running the show and I had to book talent. And the guy that was running the top boss, he didn't have any experience running production. So his idea of how much content we were supposed to push out, I later learned was unrealistic, but I didn't know any better. So I just did what he said to do. So we pushed out 12 pieces of content a week, which was nuts. And that's including live interviews. I mean, multiple live interviews. So it was insane. Yeah. But what I learned was how to create like insane, awesome show and content in a very short amount of time. So a piece of that was I had to pitch these agents and managers, and that's where I learned pitching. And that's one of the core things that I teach as a power offer consultant. So I learned that people, those are the hardest people to pitch on the planet, and I learned to figure out what it is they want, right? So not what you can do for me, but what I can do, what the show can do for you, what we can do for you, right? So
Right.
I did my research and would find out, okay, who is this person? Like, okay, this guy was on Star Trek, or this guy, and plus I got to like pitch people I wanted to meet. Like I got to meet Tom Green, I got to meet Debbie Allen, I had Tiffany Haddish on the show. I had all these incredible people that I
Oh my
personally
gosh.
wanted to meet. Yeah. So I literally was like, all right. And Tiffany Haddish hadn't blown up yet. She was like on the verge. It was pretty cool. I found out like with Debbie Allen, for example, like they tell me you'll never get Debbie Allen. Like Debbie Allen is Debbie Allen, but she's also the executive producer of Grey's Anatomy, which is like the longest running, most popular show. Not a lot of people know that. Very busy lady.
I would think so.
And she also runs a major nonprofit dance for kids. And so that's what I found out is like, okay, what would Debbie Allen do this for? Like, where's her heart? Where's her passion lie? Like she wants to spread her nonprofit. She wants to help, kids get into dance classes. And so that's what I figured out. Like, all right, so let me tell her that if she comes on, that we'll talk about that and we'll make sure that that's the focus of it. And so that's why I learned how to like, part of the pitch is not, what can I do for you? Or it's, people make the mistake when they're pitching that they read their services like I call it the Chinese menu. Like, don't read it like off like a menu. Like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Like, how those menus are like notoriously like giant and filled with everything that you could possibly eat. It's like, no, let's figure out what it is they want. So even like when it comes to like power partnerships, right? So people, our referral sources. I tell people that's your new target client, not their client, not the ones that you're trying to get to, but it's when you're pitching to a referral source, or I call them power partners, find out what it is they want. What's going to make, because if they're introducing you to their clientele, then they're putting their life on the line. They're putting their whole career on the line, because if you don't perform, they're taking a chance on you, right? So you got to go in and find out what it is, what's important to them, what are their deepest desires, what makes a success to them, what makes a failure to them, and pitch accordingly. So these are the kind of things that I learned while I was in that business, and that I bring to coaches and consultants. So one thing that people ask me all the time is like, well, if you were hanging out with all these stars and doing all this stuff, like, why are you helping people in the consultants now? Why are you helping coaches and consultants now? And the reason is because I mean, if you zoom out, like, what are we here on the planet for? You got to kind of figure that out. I think we are all renting, and the earth. And so we have a finite amount of time. And to me, it's like, okay, what are you doing that's when you die that you're going to say, I feel good about? Like, what's your legacy ultimately? Like, people think of, oh, I have to be 70 before I have a legacy. No, like we don't know when we're going to die.
Right.
So you got to get going now on it, in my opinion. And so it's like, all right, so I like being a free country. I think that we live in the greatest country on the earth, and I am really appreciative to live here. I've traveled all around the world, and I've seen some of the other options. And I think that we live in the best place, and we're democratic, and we have tons of things that are wrong with us, but we also have, for now, we have freedom, and I'd like to keep it that way. So to me, how can we sustain that is to create entrepreneurs, and if you can, how do you stay an entrepreneur? You have to make money, right? A
Mhm.
lot of people try it and then they fail because they couldn't figure out certain things. And so it's like, all right, well, if I know how to do those things, then I'm going to bring those things to help people so that they can sustain their business, right? That, and to me, when I started helping coaches and consultants, the gratitude that came back was just like no other. Like, it was just like, okay, now I feel like I'm playing my part, right? So it's deep, it's meaningful to me to do that. And if I can help switch the light bulb on, if I can help, like, tweak something here or there that gets somebody off to the races, then I feel really good about what I'm doing. So that's it.
I love that. And that's exactly why we have these kinds of conversations, so that when we get to this particular point, and as you have, I feel like you have unequivocally shown how well you would do as someone's power offer consultant. And so before we actually have to hit your hard stop, why don't you give us your best power offer for what you have going on? Because I'm sure at this particular point, there's someone who's listening who's like, I could absolutely use your services or work with you in some way, or even just kind of like, use you as a consultant. So what is your power offer? What do you have going on, and where can we find you?
Okay, perfect. So I essentially help coaches and consultants create and sell power offers so they can finally attract their high ticket clients that they deserve or that they want to hang out with, because all day you're hanging out with your clients and they become your friends. And if you're not pitching and helping people that you want to help, then you're not hanging out with people that you want to hang out with. And to me, that makes our job fun. So I run a cohort as well of success-minded, like-minded, energetically aligned coaches, consultants, startups, founders. Currently, there's 15 players in there. It's gamified. And what I've done is help figure out people how to gamify the drudgery. So there's a lot of heavy lifting in the beginning. How can we come in, play as teams, gamify it, make it fun, celebrate our wins every single week? That's what I've created. I created it last October. We've got major success stories coming out. I've got people selling companies. A friend of mine Graham just sold his company in Dubai to an Indian gentleman who owns a franchise across India. So, it's success story after success story. Like, I have a client who I pitched a power offer. I helped her create her power offer. She pitched it the first time. She liaisons between publishers and authors, and she found the gap and filled it. And her first client became a $120,000 client by April of 2023. So she made more by April than she did the whole year before. This week in the cohort, my client Kendra, first week playing, because it's a 90-day accelerator, it's a 90-day game.
Mhm.
First week, she landed her first client with her new offer for $6,000. So that's what's possible, and that's what's exciting. And I'm on LinkedIn, so Carla Cherry on LinkedIn. That's the best way to find me. I'm not sure when this airs, but I'm on September 21st, which is Thursday. I'm going to be teaching a pitch. I'm throwing pitch parties. So I literally will polish people's pitch on the spot. Like, I'm a writer. So if you tell me your pitch, I literally will rewrite it in real time. And that's my gift for people in my workshop. So if you have the guts to come and play and sit in the hot seat, I'll literally rewrite it and give it back to you. And it's my gift to you, because that's where it all starts, is pitching.
Mhm.
And I'll be doing those pretty much monthly, maybe weekly. So we're find out what the need is. And anyway, but the best place to find me is on LinkedIn, because that's where we play. I teach people how to have converting conversations that convert on LinkedIn. So thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been an honor, and I'm very excited for you. I get really excited when I see young people creating their business and not having to go through all the, corporate stuff, right? I mean, we can create things for corporate. I'm doing that all the time, helping other people do that. But to own your own time, to have your own freedom, to not have an income ceiling, to be able to, we're very powerful beings, right? So if you step into your power, you can create whatever you want to create, and which is ultimately what makes us human, and also, children of God. So I can get into that a lot, but I just, it's my passion to see people get started on their journey early, because you can create the life that you want.
I absolutely agree. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. I know that you have to get out of here in a rush and everything. And so we'll bid you adieu and hope you back for another episode. Thank you, Ramblers,
Okay.
and keep rambling.
Hey, Ramblers, that's it. Podcast is over. Don't leave yet, though. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on YouTube at OffSource HQ. We'll see you next time.